mastering the art of forgiveness. That's what we're going to be talking about in this edition of Guidance for the Soul Live. And I want to thank everyone for joining me in this adventure of giving. It's like friends and family, our hearts and our minds. But the art of forgiveness doesn't always extend to those that we are not close to in our hearts, right? How many people want to know what it's like to do the vision of division for people of, well, we were going to say of color. So I still embody the vision of a guide who is a female of color on this plane. And I hear her vision of, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. This was the art of forgiving us for these visions of glamour for this topic of slave state, right? Others are, people are going to know what that means. Oh my gosh, it's going to be one of those politically, no, but this is the nature of it. Okay, how many people do we have to forgive when we go to the other side, right? Do we do it here before we go over to the other side? When you're in the soul level understanding, you have to honor the hearts and minds of all those souls that you come into contact with. And it's not always easy to do. And we have to look at someone and say, are these the people I'm creating with in my heart? These people that are doing these visions of destruction or division. Sometimes I feel that vision of division come through in my own mind. And sometimes there's a great reason for it. Okay, we're not all here to do the same work. But it doesn't mean that I dishonor their visions as bad for them. It just might not be right for me. Do I have to play my cards? It's like put my cards on the table. What are we talking about? The nitty-gritty of forgiveness, right? Do you forgive your family tree, or do you have to forgive your own heart? These are the separate issues that we want to talk about. Okay, sometimes when I come across in my videos or in the post that I post, people are going to start getting a little nervous. You see, there are other souls that we say, it's not that I don't love you. It's just that I don't want to be around you. How many people understand that vision? Do I have to forgive myself for acknowledging the fact that we don't really get along? Or am I supposed to just be sitting there and, people please? That's what I would call it, the people pleasers of the world. Let me sit in this room in a state of what? Are we happy? Right? The familial obligations, right? This is not about tearing apart people, but it's about honestly understanding. Some of us are very attuned to the nature of what's really going on in the relationships in the room. That's where I was. Put me in a weird place as a child or as a teen for the most part. As a child, I was oblivious to what was going on. I just didn't feel right. Okay, so I would go hang out in my grandma's bedroom a lot. I would take those breaks. Not because there was a lot of tension, but I was feeling a lot of the energy. Okay, so this is the nature of what some people are going to understand. If you are one of those people who are, I am sensitive at the minimum, okay, I can't forgive my family members for the pain and destruction they caused my mind or my body or my heart. We're dealing with all kinds of people here. Okay, and it can be a struggle. It sometimes will take a lifetime for people to come to that place of love for their own hearts. Because usually, the people in the self-help industry will say, forgiveness is for your own heart. It's for you. Brenda won't even ask for people to, forgive her. she wouldn't dare ask anyone to forgive her. Because in essence, she knows that that vision is for them to come to in their hearts and their time if they choose to do so. Am I asking because I truly feel like I want it? Or am I trying to ease my own guilt about how I feel in the moment? Because that's usually what it is. We're not saying it's good or bad if people do that. People are going to start to understand just because I do that vision doesn't mean that someone else needs to have that vision. Okay, every soul's going to be different in how they perceive the art of forgiveness. Others will say, I need forgiveness in order to move on from that feeling of guilt. Okay, and some people may or may not grant it to you, depending on where they are in their hearts. I forgive everybody who hurts me because I understand that vision. Others will say you were never traumatized as a child. I can guarantee you I was. Maybe not as severe as certain people. I will not judge anyone for withholding forgiveness from any of my deeds. I would say, I understand. I don't need people to forgive me either if that's not where they are. I don't want your forgiveness if it's not actually there in your mind. And that's the nature of it. It is a vibration of love that opens up the nature of conditioning. Many people will say, I have to forgive before I go to the next plane of awareness. It's honestly a beautiful place to be. So while you may not want to do that vision in your own way, it will help you guide yourself to another level of understanding. A lot of people, as we age, start to understand, yeah, I don't want to hang on to that vibration of anger or guilt or, whatever it is. So some people may feel like I need to have this burden lifted off of me, so they will honor those visions of love from the other side. Don't assume because I come down in a negative way towards one certain religion, right? Everyone's going to assume that. I actually imbibe upon the Christian mindset in a system that others are not going to understand. I don't give it my power. I enjoy the visions that it can bring to me. It's when you let any system dictate who you are to be in this planet that I reside in. That's how I lifted myself up out of it. It's not about saying don't use your tools, whether it's going to church or, using the book, okay? You're going to get some of that vision. It depends on where you are with it. Your own soul will tell you where, you can go. I still get told certain visions in that system that's actually multicultural and it's like multinational and it's very interfaith. Let's put it that way. But in the end, it's let's vibrate out of the vision of constriction or, the natural ability just to release those visions of I don't have to be anything other than who I am. And my soul comes to me and says, I love you. Do you understand? It's about the nature of where we are in our hearts, where we are as a country sometimes, right? We see a lot of the fighting, among various faiths. There's a lot of issues that can be unwound. Brenda does it in her mind, and that's when she goes high, because she's fighting for all of us. So if she sees one group hurting, she'll go to bat for you. She sees the other group hurting, she'll go to bat for them. She doesn't spare anybody the vision of let me see where you are and how can I help. Okay, it's not about taking sides. She cannot take sides in arguments for the most part. She usually looks at it, oh, she can take sides. It's just about what's going on and how many people are being hurt in the moment. Am I listening to one person's vision of love and 5,000 people are being hurt by this one person? Guess where I'm going to go? I'll try to work out a deal with this one person, but in essence, these 5,000 people that actually are being, destroyed by this one person, yeah, I think I'm going to fight for those 5,000. Okay? That's the nature of it. Okay? That's to let you kind of understand where she rolls. That's how she said, that's how I roll. I fight for humanity. So am I concerned about one man's vision from a certain place in time? No, I'm not. He's good. That vision of religion, right? Any soul that comes through for me, I know I'm creating with them. But I fight for humanity. I go toe to toe with soul level understanding for all of us here as well. And it can be a doozy, okay? And then I have to sit there and I have to align myself with my loved ones. And I have to say, I love you. Most people will say, this isn't fighting for humanity. You have no idea what happens when you get told you're creating beauty in the moment. Because in essence, so many of us are in that vision of, I am in my own vision of who I am and what's best for me, not what's best for humanity. And most people will think they have the answer to it. And then they start to understand, are you receiving the future in your mind, right? I get the future handed to me all the time. Where I place my focus, that's why I fight. Okay, so some of the things aren't pleasant that I hear, but I still have to release them. Okay, and that means that in essence, if your feelings are being hurt or your mindset is being triggered, I am not going to ask for forgiveness for that. I honor your pain wherever you are. That's another place of forgiveness. Because in essence, we all move through the peaks and valleys of love. That's what that vision is. I am riding the waves of love is usually where I talk about it. But in essence, the waves are usually, coming in to shore as she's, we call her the wave walker. But it's more like her vision is the peaks and valleys of love. We have these emotional highs and lows in our lives. How do we, adjust the vision so that we can understand how do we truly heal when we're afraid of what awaits us on the other side? So many people are told you must make amends before you cross. And in essence, if you watch the video of, well, it's going to be about Troy Aikman, believe it or not, there is a discussion in there about our souls are doing the work for us. Brenda is an example of her reuniting with her own soul, and she does the work for her soul as well as others. Okay, now in essence, your souls are working out a lot of the differences for you as we speak. It doesn't mean you just go off and, create havoc, does it? It could. It's not a pass to go do destruction, is it? It can be. You see, that's the nature of where soul level understanding comes in. The love for humanity is more about, it's like a topic of discussion on its own. But as a soul, you would say, what if I don't want to forgive someone? I can't in my heart. My mind is still too filled with the pain of the memory. It is a memory, We want to honor it. This could be very painful for some people. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean that you didn't suffer. It doesn't mean that you don't carry that wound in your heart with you. We know it changed the trajectory of your life, right? Most often it changed that trajectory of my life, and I am either saddened by that vision, maddened by that vision, feeling betrayed by, my family or my friends or whoever it is. It could be a stranger even. We have some horrific things that people have in their hearts. And so we're not going to demean anybody by just placing a label on someone saying, oh, you need to forgive somebody in order to move on to another lane. It's like the lane of passing. Okay. I had to forgive people that sent me on a trajectory of abuse, victimhood, misery, pain, suffering, right? Sometimes people will say, I blame God, right? Don't worry about those visions of you need to be good in order to go to your beautiful place of heaven. Please, please let that one go. There's a lot of that guilt and shame that gets thrown around. I partake in some of that vision. Obviously, I'm not perfect. Okay. And I want to honor all of those that say, yeah, I could, put this out there that you're the best damn guide ever, but I'm still holding back until you tell me my dad's name is Ronnie. Okay. So there's another vision there. Someone's name is Ronnie. Okay. I have someone who keeps talking about their father in the negative. Okay. And that vision is, I do not blame them as they were. Or, okay. So this is about another vision of someone who says, I think I'm needing a guide. If you feel like you're needing a guide, that would be a personal session for some trauma that needs to be released. Okay. So in essence, that's where I'm at. I'm at a place in my life where I forgive for a trauma. It's not what people think. That was created by me during energy work. Okay. It was a horrific experience for my mindset. Okay. And I forgave almost immediately, but I held on to the energy of it. And sometimes this is where forgiveness in our minds feels like we forgive, but our body is still holding on to it. You'll know the difference when you go to that level of understanding. Yeah, I know. My body tells me I'm still in struggle mode. You'll start to either go to it's like the passing lane. So I have a truck driver that said, you were told that I was feeling angry and I swerved into your car. Okay, you go to different levels of understanding about the thoughts that people have when they find out that the caretakers of the soul don't always bring you what the reality was, but they want to check you to see if you're still in the vision of what did actually happen in the heart and mind of someone that I was involved in an accident with. Okay, I had to hear the vision of what was going on in the mindset of someone who then said they needed to forgive me because of the lawsuit, and the trajectory of that person's life went downhill. Okay, I was a child. What did I do? I was a passenger in a car, And I said, okay, I get it. These are the kinds of issues. How many people say other people want to know, how do you get to the nitty gritty of forgiveness? If I can't release it, does it hang in my body? It can. It can be bad, right? Not even close. It's okay if you don't forgive your fathers or mothers, whatever. They will love you eternally on the other side. If that is what you need to hear, you will hear those visions. Okay. It's like, because there's a release of the mindset that we kind of create with here. Okay. It's a beautiful place to go. That's those heavenly realms. After we rest for a little bit, we might create with those souls that we knew here. And in essence, if you clear the slate here, you get to move on to another, it's like another veil. So more and more veils kind of get revealed as you build that vision of love. Okay, you go, oh, I don't need to create with the vision of my family anymore. Maybe. Okay, or who is my family? See, for me, I have friends that I consider I'm closer to than my, siblings, right? Or my extended family. How far back do I go? Am I going to see all of my ancestors that I did genealogy research with? I could. I don't necessarily want to, but I could bring through that vision. Do we all create in the name of heaven? Not everybody does. There are a lot of people who are not in the vision of heaven that still need that vision put to them. They're very much, I'm in the here and the now, so I just want to feel good about, not carrying hate around with me because it eats at me, right? It could just eat at my either my body, right? We can then kind of take on those issues that don't feel so good. Some people are like, I turn to food, that's my, issue, or I turn to some other form of addiction, or, maybe it's like it kind of sits in our stomachs, a lot of it, that energy. Because we can, move through the years and realize I was still holding a grudge. This is where you start to unwind a lot of the family tree dynamics. As more and more family members age and start to spread out, we start to realize, well, it's because we don't get together as much anymore. Maybe, or maybe we still get together and we shouldn't. How many people are in that position? My mother forces us all to get together even though we can't stand each other, right? That's not my vision, but I'm just saying, it could be anybody, right? Does it serve us well to keep creating in the vision of destruction of our family tree? It's not about saying it's bad. Okay, I'm not talking about my experience necessarily. But what I'm saying is there are family members who are going to say, I cannot be around you. You cause me too much, there's too much strife. I had to do that vision, not with my personal family. I canceled Thanksgiving. I said, that's it, I'm done. Y'all can go, eat dinner in your own way. Literally. Because there's only so much this lady's going to handle before she literally will say, y'all want to fight and argue over petty bologna? You're not doing it in my house. That's her soul. Now, in essence, I want this to just be a short episode because when I heard the tones this morning, and that's why this episode kind of came on, it was more about the destruction of Sylvia Plath. I'm in touch with the authors of the world. She was very sad. Destructive visions of suicide come up for me all the time. I know people who are still in that vision of, I am struggled in my mind. And I want to say there is hope. It is not about her vision of light. She says, I was guaranteed a vision of love when I crossed over. I did not take my life in the vision that others would think that I have. I am alive and kicking. I am very much of beauty. Soul is my strength. I am guaranteed a vision of love, no matter where I walk, in whatever realm I reside in. The vision of her soul is as an instructor in the art, and it's like the art and science industry. She says, science is beautiful in this world, but the writers are being discounted for their gifts. Do I give you the beauty of love of her soul? How many people reinforce their visions of sadness or destruction with what they read? So in essence, please stop, pity partying your visions of light, right? That's what some people will say. Others will say, I heard Brenda say, get up and crack the code. You crack the code to the art of forgiveness, not only for your own heart, but for others. And it gets harder and harder to stay in that pit of despair. Now, does it dishonor your visions of love? No. Do we read sad things? When I'm feeling bad, am I commiserating with my friends? Or am I releasing the beauty of my love to them to help me deal with my love loss? She was in the vision of love loss. Okay. Now, in essence, Brenda has never read a single word by her, ever. And yet that vision comes through strong. She feels the vision of authority, but there are those of us who must break the bond of silence. And that was her decision. I will not be silenced anymore. I will not caretake any soul who feels the destructive nature of suicide as an option, right? We know that vision is not all about sadness. It is about despair. Whether you are forced into that decision or not, we already know that vision of many who have had to make that choice for various conditions, right? The eternal life of my soul was of struggle, right? That's a very different vision of it, okay? Some of us create those visions of pain and suffering, and we say, honor the vision of my light is so strong and bright, I will conquer this vision of depression or of suicide before I rise again. See, we often forget that time heals many of our wounds. The destructive nature of suicide keeps on giving that vision to so many souls. It's one of those natural visions that many will choose in this vision. Okay, I did not say this was going to be the joyful edition of Guidance for the Soul. Brenda hears from those visions in various ways, and it is a struggle in essence. It's like the replaying of various souls' visions. And then she buckled up and said, I'm going to face the fear and hear the stories of those souls that hurt her in her mind. And she said, I was still holding on to the pain of it, even though I was ready to let it go. It took a long time to let the pain go for some of us. And so I'm not going to demean anybody's vision of I can't do that work. Okay? It's not about telling people there's no one way to handle your heart. There's no one way to choose what or who gets forgiven. But your main obstacle is choosing to, it's like drink your views away. Some people assume that drinking helps with the blues. It can be a distraction for sure. It helped me do my deed is where I had to go. Right? How many of us are not in our right states of mind when we make those choices? That's the vision of many. Others are very clear in their intentions. Do they get forgiven by the views of God? She's like, I had to unwind that vision for a while, but I was very much pleased with my outcome. It made me more famous in many ways. The story's tragic. It continues to be so. Please don't pity my heart. I am just fine as I am. I don't identify with who I was, but I do identify with the vision of love that I left behind. It's there I reside in the minds of many. It's also the vision of love that I carry with me in my heart. I understand the pain and sorrow of those who I left behind, and that's the nature of all souls. We give you our hearts, we give you our love, and we grant you those wishes you wish to send our way. Value giant is still the vision of many souls on the screen. It is an intense vision of, it's like of destruction. Some people are wanting their visions to be brought through. Guidance for the soul is not always about personality differences or guidance sessions. That would be more of it's like a personal acknowledgement to those of you who are sticking around. Okay. The values that we are like working with. Some of you do take those values very seriously with the visions of Jesus or Christ or God or Muhammad or whatnot. And various other cultures have their own visions of what is right or wrong. The values that you hold so dear are often laid to rest in the next realm. It doesn't mean you come through as opposite, but you do kind of get a little bit of a whiff of a fortune hunter for someone in the audience. There's someone in the audience that's looking for their fortune hunter. And we would say, I can give you the vision. If your soul deems you to be not worthy, it's like there's someone there saying, am I worthy of a session? It's not about worth, ever. This is about the idea, do I grant my family their visions of love from a place of worth, or is it of love? See, the vision of worth is where a lot of people do that deed that is not so pleasant for everybody else. And we would say, if it's that vision, I am not worthy, we will give you another episode based just on that topic. How many people know I could be the spiritual master and still have issues of worth? You don't have to have it all figured out to get your rear in gear. Okay? Now, the Sylvia Plath energy wants to say adieu. She just wanted to show that vision as it is brought through and say, my heart goes to those souls who had to deal with my mastery and who then felt the same and did the deeds by identifying with the work that I wrote. That's the nature of light. I created visions of death. It's like the death sentence for certain people, right? It's not. Okay, everyone finds beauty in various works of art. We do not throw away our books of visions, but we do realize that her vision is, I am all that and more as well. I did the deed. I was strong. I needed to. I don't look back. I don't look back. I create the vision of love looking forward. This is to help those souls that are in that mindset. Stop looking back if you can and plant the seeds for a better tomorrow. And if you go to that vision of I am in desperation, you call me, get a hold of me, and we will work out what is going on and how do you plant the seeds. I need to be in relief. Okay. That's the nature of many. Many are struggled in their bodies or in their minds. It's the struggle mentality, and we have to vision a better future for our souls. I'm not going to go to the individual love at this point that I hold for many. I will go to the vision of a general audience and say there is a soul to soul love connection that's coming through. Honor your visions of love for all souls. Stay strong in your vision of Sylvia. She's the strongest soul I know who gave me the vision of pain when I needed it. Some people imbibe upon those visions to actually trigger those release mechanisms in their mind. Some of us go to those sad movies, cry our hearts out, get it out. That's what we're saying. Some of us need to stop bottling it up and to get the flippin' energy out of our system. So many of us hold those visions back. I still struggle. I honor that. Keep it going. Right? Certain spiritual mindsets will say, just pretend like it's gone. Baloney. I'm trying to be a little bit better in the language. You don't. You have time to grieve. Does it mean, okay, see, and there's a difference between this is new versus I'm working on something from 50 years ago. Some of us are still doing that vision. I get it. I was there with certain things for a long time. I still have certain things that trigger me. Okay, but I forgave everybody. I don't have to create with them on the other side if I don't want to. I know that now for sure. And that's the vision of love that I hold. I probably will invite my own soulmates to come and see me at some point. But in essence, you know, in this vision, I just want to say it's about time we start to, you know, think about the beauty of our hearts. So at some point, I might do more of a soul embodiment vision again. That one is not as strong with a lot of people. But if you're in that mode of I'm feeling energy, then we need to talk. If you start to feel energy in your body in any place, and when I say that, it's not, it would be a moving energy or pulsing sensations. Okay, it could be something different. You'll have to let me know exactly what it is, and I'll, you know, tap in and see if you're already in the vision of, I think I'm already having palpitations. Palpitations in your heart. Oh, okay. Don't be afraid that someone's afraid. The energy that you feel in your heart with the beating. Okay, I actually want to honor someone's visions. When I embodied my soul as a guide, I went down a path of adventure, exploration with my energy. I would feel my own heart beat with, it's like, so if it's just palpitations, that's usually a sign of anxiety or some kind of physiological struggle. I will honor that vision and they say, yeah, that's definitely what it is. Versus if you're feeling good when you hear those visions, that's a whole different, you could be going through the idea of, spiritual enlightenment. There are different things that people are going through. I thought I was going down the road of joy. So for me, I was feeling good. It doesn't have to feel bad. Some of us will get triggered into enlightenment with these more traumatic kind of physical ailments. That can be a trigger that lets us know where we are sometimes, or it's just time for us to kind of rest. Sylvia Plath is saying there's a lot of people on the line who need their hearts like caressed or rubbed. It's going to be okay. She would say, honor the vision of love for the strangers of the soul. If you want to see more of my vision of struggle, you can see my visions of struggle, right? Some of them come out on the screen in my previous visions. I'm not going to hold back on a lot of stuff, but I'm not going to be a tell-all either at this point. But people do need to understand if you're starting to go down that path of, yeah, I'm a spiritual, addict, and I feel like I'm having struggles. Sometimes you need to pull back from it for a little bit, okay? And say, okay, I get it. I need a break. I was in that path. And then I kind of took a break. And I said, okay, wait, I'm back in my groove. Okay. Sometimes we just go, it's like whole hog into the vision of depression or whatnot. And we want to honor the visions of those who are going to be watching for the more joyful episodes of Guidance for the Soul. There's a reason that I did the vision that I did. It needed to be said. As a soul worker, I do work with some of those souls who were in the vision of, I killed myself. Okay. And I had to say, I'm sorry for their destruction. That's seriously, it was like I would get angry. I had my own anger because of the people that I knew that went down that path in the ways that they did. And it brings about a lot of anger or sadness or whatnot for a lot of people. And so I want to, extend my sympathies to those who may have been triggered by this. I will put a warning out. I did not count on that vision. Otherwise, I would have put it out there. But to be honest, it's probably one of the hardest things for people sometimes to deal. Well, there's a lot of trauma, so we're not going to try and rank what is or isn't painful. Some people's pain is minimal compared to others, and they, hold on to it forever. Again, it just depends on the soul. So lighten your load. That's what I had to do. How do you lighten your load? You start to put into perspective, what is it that's really mattering in my life in the moment? And for some of us, it literally is that I'm in the moment. I need to learn how to breathe. That's where I was. I realized I wasn't even breathing right. I was always constricted in my stomach, tightening of my stomach, not even understanding why. Holding my breath without even realizing it. for years. Okay. Many of us in this vision now understand, oh, yes. Some of the physical ailments that we create in our minds are just as bad as those of the body for us. Okay. And we will address these visions one by one as we see it's like the vision of beauty come across the screen. Hamburger Helper is a favorite of somebody that I know. And so I'm going to say, that's usually my cue that I need to start to unwind the vision of love for those souls who make it past that vision of, I don't need to be so sad anymore. Or I don't need to be in that mindset of, I need to leave this plane, right? I had to deal with that at one point in this journey. I didn't know if I was going to make it, to be honest. And it's not something I really talk about because it was something I created literally by my own heart. And it's part of the experience of soul work that I wish I wouldn't have done. But now I know how to make sure that others don't have to go through that experience. Okay. So caretake your hearts. Open up your minds to the beauty of releasing your anger in whatever way you need to. And for those of us who say, I don't have that ability because I'm always around other people who would say it's wrong, I would say go into your dark closet and scream. Beat your fist against, the wall? Not so much. Maybe a pillow, right? Literally, sometimes you have to get so much of that energy out, and it can be cathartic. You might need to get a foam covered bat. I did that at one point and beat the crap out of something that's not breakable. Literally. Okay. That's what I did. I kind of forgot about that one. But in this process, it was more about just going into a closet. I call it my confessional, but it's not about me confessing, it's about me processing. And I cry and I scream sometimes if I'm dealing with something that gets it's like it's releasing the energy of past. Okay? And that's the nature of it. Is sometimes it's hard to get to that place of forgiveness if we're still holding on to the anger or the sadness of it, but usually there's anger, right? And then when I unwind it, the anger is usually preceded by sadness, right? No, it's usually me going, I'm angry. And then I unwind it even more and say, I'm really sad. And it could be on a level that most people don't understand, because even if someone hurt me, and it's usually that sadness that someone hurt me, or the sadness that I can't connect with someone in the way that I want to, or a sadness that I'm being let down in some way, or that's just me. I'm not going to deny anger as a base emotion, because it is. But I want you guys to understand that I'm not saying this is any substitution for a therapy session. If you are in that vision of I need therapy, that can be very helpful. I went down that route many times. Some people going through the process of enlightenment or awakening, whatever you want to call it, will experience a lot of those experiences and need counseling of some sort, find somebody that you trust at least to hold your hand in the vision of you're not alone. You're not alone. If you can't find someone, reach out to me and I will see what I can do to either find you a resource that is fitting for who you are or bring through the information for you that will guide you to a place of, I just needed to hear that my dad was still there and loved me. That's the vision that a lot of us need to hear. That's somebody else I know as well. We miss our fathers, and they do create the beauty for us and acknowledge our love, okay? It's a struggle for me because I have a strong connection. So when I hear about that love from a father, it can be, a very personal thing as well. So take this time in this moment to cherish the love of your own souls. Put your hand on your heart. It's a very, very beautiful expression. Sometimes in my moments of loss, I get the hugs from my soul. And it's not what people think. It's a beautiful expression, but literally put your arms around yourself and give yourself a hug. Who cares what other people think? To be honest, I don't care. We have to do this vision of I am loved. Someone's having a heat flash in the moment, and that's me. I'm burning off energy for somebody. That was for me. So that's how people are going to know something's got. It's like, there's an energy of love that is so strong. So, no, I am not hormonal. People don't understand. Okay, that's another symptom. Women of my age who are in that age of pre-menopause or menopause or post-menopause, might experience those visions, but that's what my guides will do. Any energy that comes through me that is deemed, more destructive to my heart gets burned away. I know that it gets taken away. People are gonna say, "What?" It's like an energetic signature that my soul will leave with me that says, "You aren't gonna have to deal with that vision anymore." There are benefits to combining with your own soul to do that vision of love. So people are going to assume that when I brought through the vision of Sylvia Plath, that it was all about life. And that's her, it's like the end of her soul session. So that's the nature of it. Cartons of milk are coming through. Someone on the screen needs a carton of milk in order to get through the next day or two. Please be aware of your mask wearing when you go to the store. You need to be more cautious. If you're just going in for a carton of milk, it doesn't mean that you can bypass the visions of mask wearing, even if you're only going in for a carton of milk. I'll just run in, it won't be a big deal. I need you to be aware of the soul who is saying there is someone there who wants a carton of milk and they're going to try and just go in without wearing their mask. And I'm going to say, your soul would say, damn, she's got, you must wear your mask. Your soul is letting you know on the screen that your mask is being, it's like held back for some reason. Arnold Schwarzenegger is also another vision of love that is going to come in and say, we're going to end the session as a guide, because certain people wait a minute. It's not, it's about making sure we take appropriate action. Don't give up the mask wearing people. We still have those variants. Someone is getting sick of the pandemic, but someone else is saying, I know, I was about to do that vision. Your soul loves you no matter what, but they will tell you when it's time to stop with the bullshitting about, I only do the mask when I have to. Don't dry your eyes. Someone's crying. The grief that you know for that vision is, you know, you're connecting to your heart. Don't blame yourself for the death of another. It's just a choice we make in the moment. I did not die from that visit. Okay? Honor the vision of love for those souls who deny their visions of, I didn't wear my mask. They're in that vision of caretaking. We're going to honor the visions of those hearts that said she knew we were going to be dead, but she didn't speak out enough. She let the families dictate to them about what was and wasn't strong in her heart. My mask wearing is none of your damn business is where most people go who choose otherwise. The guilt that others feel as they cross over, right? Or those that were here and realized they were the ones that did the deeds. Don't place that burden on your heart, people. It's a tragic way to go. Not that there's any, great way, medically induced coma patients are wanting to come through. Does not mean that the soul is not there loving you gently in that good night. I hear those visions of go gently into that good night. We know these visions. Others are starting to hear the visions of, we're done with this lady. She's condemning my heart. I'm here bringing through the vision of a viewer who knows that vision of pain, of, I think I did something wrong. It's not a judgment. It's an honest assessment of a situation that is about to play out. And the vision is change the outcome. Change it. It is not a foretelling of death. It is an honest assessment of the likelihood of something happening that could lead to that vision. Moment by moment, people start to understand. By you receiving the message of guidance, you get to hear the vision of love come your way. Bending over backwards for my family tree is what I do best. Don't ever deny the vision of love for all souls. That's where all people go, right? And yet I'm still stuck in the mindset of my life. There are two people on the other side of the screen who are aware of her heart and know she would not say a word to someone who walked into this studio, blew up a bomb, right? There's a studio apartment that someone says it felt like there was a bomb going off. That was the nature of destruction. Someone else is saying it's a pipe bomb. Do you want to know what those visions are like when I bring them through? For those of you who do not know me, I am a channel for the soul as well as a guide. So in those visions of love that I bring through for the family and friends and viewers, and honestly, anyone who joins me in this vision, I will say you're like family because you're connecting in our hearts. Whether or not you like it or not is a whole different story, okay? But those bombings that are coming through, those are it's like the nature of bombings is destruction. Some people will say all bombs are bad. Yeah. Death is not something we encourage. I choose my visions wisely. There were those visions of Capitol riots, and that's where we take heed of when those tones get heard. More and more of those visions of destruction will be prosecuted as they come forth, either voluntarily or involuntarily through the visions of my own family and friends are turning me in. That's the nature of a lot of them. Believe it or not, that's the nature of love. Okay, when someone says this one is off doing destructive behavior, others will duck and cover. These are the visions of war. I'm not going to talk about war at this point. Someone's encouraging her to keep going with that vision of milk. What do you mean someone is going to go into a store without a mask? It's not always required at this point in time. Some states aren't requiring mask, okay, or some countries. Okay, some of my videos are being seen from other places in the world, and I want to honor those visions. Okay, now the caretakers of the heart will say it's not there yet. It's not a worldwide phenomenon. Don't get that, vision placed. But in essence, the more that I focus on the world, the more I get those world visions. So career counselors are another place where I could go. So for those of you that are in the vision of I need my career adjusted, I would say go to the nation. Someone is saying it's all about Islam. And in essence, they're thinking it's the, Muslim community. People have to forgive their hearts for that one. I know certain people who hold those visions as evil in essence. And it doesn't work that way on a soul level. If you're in the vision of religion and you hold that vision as less than your own, it will be a struggle for you to understand how you're separating yourself from the beauty of all. But it's okay. That's a kind of a Jewish soul would say the same thing. those faiths that are being targeted in various ways by various people, it's not easy to do the work of guidance for those souls that are of hate. And I'm not saying that we all have our own visions of how to heal from that vision of hatred or of just not like. Okay, maybe people say, oh, I'm not hating anybody, I just don't like their vision. Okay, that's not a bad, that's okay. Are you sure you're in that mindset of that? Okay, it's like the lofty goals of love. Some people literally speak the loving words of wisdom that lift others into that vision of, I feel better about my heart. I don't have to feel like I have to pretend to like everybody. And that's the nature of it. But when you get into the mode of guidance, if you ever go down that path, once you hit those high notes, it can feel beautiful. And you really don't want to imbibe upon the vision of hatred. It feels less than, right? Don't ever feel less than because you hold hatred in your heart for a guide or for a soul or anybody. Again, it's not about denying your experience. And anyone who knows me knows that if I were your soul, I would say, oh, see, so there's someone here who's challenging that vision. And so she'll say, I'm going to honor your vision of destruction and hatred. And I will say, I wish you the best in your journeys. I wish you the best in your hearts. I pray for your souls is where others will go. And in my vision of love, I will say, you don't need any prayers. That's for you to figure out what best suits your needs in this moment. I'm not here to try to change your minds or the visions that you hold for your hearts. It's about your own vision of love, hatred, guilt, or whatnot that we're dealing with. That's how strong I am. See, for me, I cannot go against the vision of soul, which says some people are here on a path of destruction, and that is their journey. And I will not caretake their hearts in the same way that I would a gentle, loving soul that comes to me, but I will not, abide by violence in my own vision. So I don't attract violence in my vision usually. I already know who I know, okay, that is very violent. And I will say, honoring your vision of destruction does not mean I agree with it. It means I understand that you feel you have a place to be, a time to be, and in anger, you lash out at others who don't rise to your level of anger. You want others to be angry with you. And what does that do for you when we don't? I don't need to be angry with you to understand why you might be hurting so much, or why you might be hating so much. There's usually a trigger that someone pulls, right? No, we're talking about something in your mind has got you very upset. And by doing the vision of, I don't need to be angry, just because you're angry? Does that make you sad? Or does it make you more angry? I'm not trying to make anyone more angry. So an honest assessment of the heart from the soul would say that vision is of hatred, but they're raising the awareness of what it is like to unwind from the vision of hatred. That vision of my mask wearing caused the death of myself. I was so angry at the wisdom being thrown my way that I gave up on my heart. Some people will say, I don't want to hear the vision of anger. I'm in that vision. I don't like it when people are angry around me. Others in my vision will say, yeah, I get it. Okay. It depends on the situation and the people involved. So, hallelujah, right? So, we're going to say, thank you for your visions of love. Thank you for your visions of hatred, if that's where you lie. You're free and clear to click away from any vision that is not to your liking. I want to say, honoring of our hearts, honoring of our minds, and honoring of our souls is where we always end for the most part. Take care and have a beautiful, beautiful soul journey wherever you find yourselves.